Coming in at number 8, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins finishing with 67 points, which is 10.5 points under what the books think they are going to finish with. And honestly, I just think this team is in full rebuild mode. They got Crosby, and especially if they end up trading one of the guys like Raquel, Malkin, or Rust, this team is just going to be bottom of the barrel. I still see a lot of people saying that Crosby is one of the best centers in the league, and as much as we all love Crosby and he's one of the GOATs, I think reality might start to hit, and we might start to realize that maybe he's falling out of that top 10 list. And he could even get moved. A lot of people want him to get moved, go to another team where he has a chance to win at least one more cup before he retires. But even if we could talk about anything other than Crosby, this blue line, that just a lot of holes, just a lot of problems. It reminds me a lot of Nashville's blue line, where they should be a lot better and they have some good guys, but they just aren't. And a lot of turnovers and not a lot of scoring. So that's what's happening over there. And their goalies, we have Tristan Jarry and Artur Shilovs. I like Shilovs. He won the Calder Cup last year in Abbotsford, but Tristan Jarry is just horrible, so it's only a matter of time before Shilovs takes that starting role. And yeah, I just think this team is going to absolutely tank and try and push to be one of the worst teams in the league so that they can get to that number one draft pick in Gavin McKenna. I think it might be between this team and another team from the Central that are going to try and push for that player. And I think McKenna might fit well in Pittsburgh, but for now, I am taking the under on the Pittsburgh Penguins 77.5. I think the books are just putting them at 77 because of Crosby, but if we take him out of the equation, and especially when they trade one of their other top forwards, I think this team might just absolutely fall to the bottom of the barrel of the league here. With that being said, welcome to the last installment of the division predictions for the upcoming NHL season. If I sound quiet, it's because I'm recording this as I literally woke up minutes ago. It's the last one I gotta do before I head off to California for work for the fall. So just trying to get this out of the way. Um, the numbers under the team logos. The first number you'll see is the projected points I think that they will finish with at the end of the season, and then the number under that is where the books have them at. So it'll always be over under. For the Penguins, it was 77.5. And I might give my 2 cents on whether it's worth putting a little action on it, based on what the books think and what I think. The last number is their odds to make the playoffs. For the Penguins, it was plus 555 to make the playoffs, so quite the long shot there. But without further ado, let's keep it moving with number 7 in the Metro. Coming in at number 7 is a team I'm very low on in the upcoming season, and that is the New York Islanders. I think the fact that they got lucky with the draft lottery last year and got the number 1 pick is going to make this team want to tank even that much more to try and get another one. Matthew Schaefer is not going to, I mean, maybe he'll play a little bit this year, but I mean, he's still going to be in development. So while he is, might as well try and tank and get as many other draft picks as you can. And I think they are starting to do that, and part of the reason I believe that is the movement of Noah Dobson to Montreal. I think it is starting. They also moved Brock Nelson before the deadline last year. They were sellers at the deadline, and I think they're going to be sellers again. Now, this team still has some solid players up top, especially with the addition of Jonathan Drouin, Barzell, Horvat, and Pajot down the middle. Those are some great centers. And then you got guys that can score goals like Kyle Palmieri, Anders Lee is not so bad, Anthony Duclair if he can stay healthy. So honestly, this forward group isn't horrible, but still for some reason, even with better forwards in the last few years, this team always struggles to score goals, and the best part of this team has always been on the blue line and in the net. But like I said, again, with the subtraction of Noah Dobson, this blue line's going to get a tiny bit worse. And then Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov, I feel like they were good 5 years ago, and people are really hung up on that. And um, they definitely should be better, and maybe they bounce back, and maybe that's scary, but I'm not buying into that. Patrick Waugh could probably win some games just with his aggressiveness, but at the end of the day, I think this organization is going to be tanking, and this team, even if they're not going to tank, I don't think they're good enough to make the playoffs anyway. I am taking the under on the Islanders, under 84.5. I have them tanking all the way down to 72 points. So it's a pretty big difference between me and the books, 12.5 point difference. I really do think that the Penguins and the Islanders will be two of the worst teams in the East. I think they'll both be absolutely competing for that number one draft lottery pick. So I'm very low on them coming into this season. We'll see how it shakes out. But I have the Islanders coming in at number 7. My gosh, there are going to be some really bad teams in the Metro this year. Coming in at number 6, we have the Philadelphia Flyers with 77 points. And honestly, looking at this lineup right now, I feel like they should be even lower. I mean, this forward group is really bad. They have basically zero depth. Up front, you're basically just relying on Michkov and Zegras to have a bounce back season. Owen Tippett's all right. Courtier, Konechny, and Forrester, those are all decent. But outside of that, not a ton of depth in the forward group. And then on the blue line, it's all right. Just kind of a mid blue line. You're going to get what you get. Sanheim's pretty good. But what brings this team down to the bottom of the league is their goaltending. Probably the worst goalie tandem in the entire league again. I said the same thing last year. I'm going to say it again. Ever since they lost Carter Hart, this team's goaltending is just terrible, and they've lost it. They've lost all the juice if they had any in the first place. They bring in Rick Tocchet, and I think that is the main reason why I have him at 6 and not 7 or 8. I like Rick Tocchet. I like what he did in Vancouver, and I like him. I like this team to get a little bit of a coach buff from him. But at the end of the day, the books have the Flyers at 83.5, and that's probably too much for this team. I think maybe they're getting a little Trevor Zegras popularity boost. But in reality, this team's not that good. This forward group's not that good. This blue line is mid, and the goaltenders are awful. Probably should be lower. If anyone wants to argue that they're lower, fair enough. But no one's having them higher than 6. Philadelphia coming in at 6 in the Metro. That is the sound of a hot take alert, because finally this video is going to get interesting, as coming in at number 5 and missing the playoffs after almost winning the President's Trophy last year, I have the Washington Capitals. Now, this was honestly, I'm not going to lie, a bit of a last second change here, because the team above this making the playoffs over the Capitals, I'm very high on coming into the season. And basically, a lot of it was just looking at these lineups and looking at the Capitals. First of all, I think we can all agree that last year they really overachieved. They were riding that high of Ovechkin's goal scoring record breaking, and they rode it all the way to 111 points, and this team was definitely just not worthy of that many points. By the time the second round of the playoffs came around, they literally got absolutely pounced by Carolina. They could not keep up. They could not score any goals, and they lose Mangiapane in the offseason to Edmonton. And looking at this forward group now, I guess Ryan Leonard, people are expecting him to take a step and be a pretty good rookie there. But I feel like this forward group is not only getting old, but I feel like they're just one injury away from, here comes another hot take, being one of the worst forward groups in the East. Ovechkin and Tom Wilson on your top line, those are some old guys. They're going to be slowing down, especially after a long season last year, and especially if they're hungover from, kind of the overwhelming season that they had last year. Strome, Dubois, those are your top 2 centers. I'm not impressed by that at all. I like Connor McMichael. I like Anthony Beauvillier, but like everyone I just named, I'm just not super high on. I'm not super impressed with. And so, um, other than the forward group, where this team shines is their blue line. I think one of the best blue lines in the East. They remind me a lot of Toronto's blue line, where it's a lot of defensive guys, and if they can just get some offense, which they desperately need, like I said, their forward group isn't going to score a ton of goals. So if they can get some offense from the blue line, maybe my mind changes. And also, they're in net. One of my favorite goalie tandems in the league, in Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren, I think is one of the more underrated goalies. He's great when Logan Thompson needs some relief. But like I said, this forward group is so underwhelming, and the forward group coming in at number 4 is overwhelmingly good. So I have the Capitals missing the playoffs, coming in at number 5 in the Metro. All right, if you made it all the way to number 4, it is a new day and I'm no longer minutes from waking up. So I'm going to be a little bit more normally loud for the rest of the video. But coming in at number 4, I left the siren in for a little bit because it's kind of a hot take. I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. And like I said when I was talking about the Capitals, I just love the lineup that the Blue Jackets are putting out. They have so much depth in their forward group, and they still have Zach Werenski, yeah, that's hard to say, on the blue line, one of the best defensemen in the league. Again, my only problem with this team is in goal. I think Elvis Merzlikins is honestly underrated, but it seems like no one else likes him that much. So we'll see if he can prove some of the doubters wrong this year. But I mean, not a ton of hope. A lot of people pretty much seem to like Jet Greaves at the end of last year, which I'll believe that more when I see it if he gets more games in this year, which he might if Merzlikins continues to struggle. But if this team can avoid a lot of shots on net on that end and just continue with the firepower with their forward group, I think Fantilli made a big step last year and he can do it again. One of the better up and coming young players in the league. And then just up and down the lineup, they bring in Charlie Coyle, big depth down the center. And then just, I mean, Marchenko, Kent Johnson had a great year last year. Boone Jenner down there. Miles Wood they bring in. I mean, just a very solid forward group that I'm very high on, which I'm kind of the opposite with the Washington Capitals. And I think that if things go the way that I'm just predicting them to, where the Capitals forward group maybe has one big injury and falls off, I think this Columbus forward group can absolutely take advantage and slip into the playoffs at plus 200 odds. I have the Blue Jackets getting 92 points this year, just barely squeaking in. And if you saw my Atlantic prediction videos, you'll see who barely squeaks in with a similar point total at the end of that season on that side of the division. The books think that the Blue Jackets will be getting 84.5 points, which I agree. I think they're going to have a bit of a setback from last year. If you're into data analytics, this team's shooting percentage was way too high last year, and they scored a few more goals than they probably should have. And I originally had them below Washington before making this video for that purpose, just because I think that their shooting percentage is going to come down, and they might come down to earth a little bit. But honestly, I have the Capitals coming down to earth a lot more than the Blue Jackets, just because I like the lineup that the Blue Jackets are coming out with more. So yeah, Blue Jackets slipping into the playoffs, bit of a hot take over the Capitals, but they come in at number 4. Coming in at number 3, I have a bounce back season for the New York Rangers, getting back into the playoffs where they probably belong, and it seems like the books agree with me and a lot of other people do as well, as they are minus 200 favorites to make it back into the playoffs this year. And I am optimistic about this team, not the entire team, because I think that the bottom 6 forward group needs a lot of work. I mean, they got sparks from their third line last year from guys like Will Cooley and Edstrom, but I think that maybe at the deadline, this team just needs one more middle 6 piece to be elite. However, you pick up JT Miller, who I am hoping has just an absolute bounce back season. They're calling him JT Quitter down in Vancouver, so as long as he doesn't quit on this team, he could be back to a 100-point player. You got Panarin in a contract year. He's playing for a lot of money that he could get signed to, whether it's with the Rangers or another team next year. Mika Zibanejad's always a wild card. Alexi Lafreniere, the Rangers fans are always waiting for a breakout season from him. He's basically in talks of being the number 1 bust of this era right now. So the forward group, Trocheck, they might name him captain, we'll see, and then Will Cooley taking another step. Their top 6 is elite and playoff worthy for sure, especially if you got big years from Panarin and JT Miller. Their bottom 6 needs work. However, their blue line, I think, is going to get a million times better this year. They get rid of Keandre Miller, which I think they absolutely fleeced Carolina in that deal with that trade. A lot of Rangers fans did not like Keandre Miller, and they were waiting for the day that he left this team. And they got like a couple first-round picks out of that trade, or at least one, which is absolutely insane. So good on them for fleecing Carolina in that deal. And then they bring in Vladislav Gavrikov. They bring in Gavrikov from LA, and I think he is going to absolutely help Adam Fox come back to his form. And guess what? I have Adam Fox as a hot take coming back this year and winning the Norris Trophy. It is a very hot take because if you're picking anyone other than Makar or Quinn Hughes at this point, you're pretty much just taking a shot, but that's exactly what I'm doing here. Adam Fox has won the Norris before. He's perfectly capable. He had a really down year. He's battled injuries the last 2 years, but I am taking a shot with him to come back and have an elite season carrying the Rangers to the playoffs. And no, I promise it's not just because I'm dating his cousin, but anyway, Igor Shesterkin is the goalie for this team, and you really can never count him out. He is one of the top 3 goalies in the league, and he's the backbone of this team. I think if you get solid seasons out of Will Borgen and Braden Schneider, Carson Soucy's a bit of a wild card in this blue line, but I really do think that this blue line is elite, and if they can just get some scoring from their bottom 6 forward group, this team should absolutely make the playoffs. And by the way, love the addition of Mike Sullivan. I think that is a coach that is very worthy of bringing this team back to where they probably should be. So Rangers finishing with 97 points in the Metro and getting 3rd, making it back into the playoffs. Coming in at number 2, we have the Rangers' Hudson rival in the New Jersey Devils. I'm not going to spend too much time on this team because pretty much going to say all the same things I said last year, which I had them doing pretty dang well last year in the same spot, getting 2nd in the division. I have them getting 2nd again this year with 109 points, taking a big step from last year. I think they got even better in the offseason this year, bringing in some forward depth with Cody Glass and Connor Brown. And then this blue line is just absolutely elite. You expect Luke Hughes to take a step each and every year. And then, Brett Pesce, Dougie Hamilton, Siegenthaler, this blue line, Dylan, is just absolutely elite. We saw what Jacob Markstrom is capable in the playoffs last year, and we all know the kind of goaltender he can be. I expect him to be just that again. And you have a formidable backup in Jake Allen as well. So there's just really only good things to say about the New Jersey Devils. The only reason they had a down year, I think everyone can kind of agree with me on this, is all the injuries they battled throughout the season. And you can't really just assume that they're going to get injured and just be that bad every single season. If they can stay healthy, they should be an absolute elite team in this league. They struggled to score goals last year, I feel like, even when they were mostly healthy, but I have faith in Sheldon Keefe in his 2nd year behind the bench for New Jersey, and I do believe they're going to be an elite team in the East, finishing 2nd in the Metro. Rounding out the Metro Division predictions and the entire league predictions, I have the President's Trophy winning Carolina Hurricanes this year, finishing the season with a league-high 115 points. The headline with this team is the addition of Nicola Ehlers, just going to make this forward group even that much more of a juggernaut, even more than it already is. One of their only losses, at least one of the big names, was Brent Burns. He goes to Colorado, but he's getting old. I think that's not that big of a loss, especially when you consider the fact they bring in Keandre Miller, which is kind of controversial, like I said when I was talking about the Rangers, but we'll see how that goes for them. I just really love the culture and the team that Ron Brindamore has built here in Carolina. They should just absolutely be a regular season juggernaut as long as they get good goaltending from one of the more underrated duos, in my opinion, in Freddie Anderson and Peter Kochetkov. Anderson struggles with injury, and it's super tough, but Kochetkov is a good backup. If they can just get a consistent tandem throughout the entire season, all 82 games, there's really no reason this team shouldn't be at the top of the league. However, once they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, that's a whole nother conversation, but we'll talk about that in about 8 to 9 months. The Carolina Hurricanes are my 2nd favorite division winner, with odds at plus 125. There really isn't anyone else, I feel like, who can win this division other than the New Jersey Devils. I think the New York Rangers would be way too big of a stretch given everyone they've lost in the last 2 years. The Capitals, there's no way they're winning it again. So the Devils could bounce back, but I do just trust this Carolina Hurricanes roster and culture a lot more. I really think that the Metro is theirs to lose, and with that, they're my 2nd favorite division winner, and I will be taking them plus 130 to win the division. That's going to do it for this video and all of my division ranking videos. If you watched all 4 of them, or you stuck around even just to the end of this one, you are awesome as always. Not as many hot takes in this one as I had in some of my other division prediction videos. So if you haven't checked those out, make sure you give those a view and a listen, because those were some crazy ones. Capitals out and Columbus in, and maybe Rangers bouncing back is a hot take for some of you, but at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. I think the Metro might be one of the worst divisions in hockey, either the Metro or the Pacific. But thanks for tuning in, sticking around. Let me know what you guys think of the Metro division this year. Who do you think is going to be some of the hot takes making the playoffs or missing it? Especially if you're a fan of one of these teams. You guys are more of an expert on these teams than I am. And I love to hear your guys' insight. I've had some good comments about the Canucks over in the Pacific, the Blues over in the Central. So keep them coming. I love to hear what you guys have to say about these teams. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you. Peace.